White America stole, schemed, conned, coerced, and corrupted its way through black farmland, cheating generations out of their birthright, destroying black wealth, and crushing black futures. And every inch of it was backed by the government that has never cared about black equity, fairness, or freedom, unless it somehow served white America first. From 1 million black farmers to barely 45,000, white America hijacked our futures. My name is Shanda, and welcome to In the Deep End.
So I'm a black farmer, and a lot of people are wondering, why are black farmers not panicking like a lot of white farmers? Well, let me explain to you the reasons why. It's because white farmers have been handed everything to them. A lot of them. Not saying all of them, but a good bit of them. And by that I mean this. MLK even pointed out. He says, farmers in the West and the Midwest who were white, they were given land, they were given money, they were given training, they were given a lot. Whereas the black farmers weren't given anything, and the largest civil rights settlement in U.S. history is Pickford v. Glickman, where you had a class action lawsuit, bunch of black farmers all joined the lawsuit, and they won a huge settlement because the USDA was shown to be racist for decades. So because black farmers haven't been given anything, we've been learning to do without, unlike your white farmers. So when things are taken away from you, all your subsidies, all your tax breaks, guess what? You panic. Whereas we've always been going through this shit. So there's problems in privilege.
I've seen many comments over the past few weeks. Many of them, I'm assuming, are from white people, based on the language and the tone of the comments. Of course, I can't be certain, but they say things like, black farmers don't significantly contribute to the economy. That's why they don't get subsidies. And we do. Or black people are the only group that doesn't rise, or black people don't want better for themselves. And every time I read comments like that, it shows me just how ignorant some white folks are to the real history of the country they hijacked and claim it's theirs. They don't know, don't care to know, or just refuse to admit that black people have risen time and time again. We've built thriving towns, businesses, and entire self-sustaining communities. From Black Wall Street to Rosewood to Wilmington, North Carolina. And every single time we built up, white America tore it down, burned it down, bombed it to oblivion, or outright stole it. Farmland was no different. In 1920, black farmers owned more than 15 million acres of land. Today, they hold less than 3 million. A 90% loss, not because their farms legitimately failed, but because white America swindled them out of their land or took the land by force with violence and intimidation. Through fraudulent deeds, heir property law, eminent domain, tax assessment scams, the Torrens Act, and USDA discrimination, the black farmer was pushed off of their lands, acre by acre and generation by generation, while white farmers were handed billions in subsidies and bailouts, which we've talked about in other videos. In order to fully understand the black farmer's plight, we need to go back to just after emancipation. Black Americans had no land, no money, and no credit. The hope and promise of 40 acres and a mule vanished overnight, leaving black families with only two choices: sink or swim. So they did what we've always done. They figured it out. They saved whatever little money they could from sharecropping, domestic work. They chipped in together through their churches and formed groups to buy land as a community. Piece by piece, acre by acre, They built something out of nothing because they knew nobody was coming to help or rescue them. By 1910, black farmers with no help and no handouts fought their way to owning between 15 and 20 million acres of land. That's the most land black Americans have ever held in this country's history. They didn't inherit it. It wasn't just handed to them like it was to the white farmers. They built it one hoe, one rake, one plow, and 1 acre at a time, with bloody hands and aching backs. But here's the part most whitewashed history books leave out, and most people don't know. Those millions of acres weren't lost through bad decisions or bad business practices. They were taken, stolen, pillaged, and looted. It happened using paperwork, courts, laws, and white wickedness backed by the government. The most commonly used tactic to acquire black farmland was the old lost deed shenanigan. Back then, land deeds were just pieces of paper stored in courthouses run entirely by white officials. There were no computers, no backup files. If the clerk said your deed was missing, hell, it was just missing. It was gone. The clerk might be a cousin or a banker or a drinking buddy of the same white man trying to buy that black farmland. All he had to do was lose your record and quietly slip a new one into the book with someone else's name on it. And the law would back it up. Once the courthouse showed their name instead of the real owner, that original ownership disappeared. No matter how many years you'd worked that soil, without a recorded deed, the owner couldn't even pay taxes. So then the county would claim the land was delinquent and auction it off for unpaid taxes. Often to the very people who made the paperwork disappear in the first place. That's how theft looked legal. No guns, just ink and power. It was organized robbery. Under heirs property law, the trap started with a smile from thin pink lips. The white land buyers would seek out the most vulnerable family member, maybe someone living out of state, and come in acting like a friend. They'd show up with handshakes and soft words talking about opportunity and helping you get your fair share. The moment that one family member agreed to sell their little piece, the buyer would then run straight to the court claiming dissension in ownership. And under heirs property law, once dissension has been declared, the judge would order the entire property to be sold because the owners, now of course including that one white one or those few white ones, can't agree. No matter how many family members wanted to keep it, that one white share owner or those few white share owners claim to not be able to get along with the other share owners. And it almost always sold for pennies on the dollar. And to the same white predator who orchestrated the whole thing. That's how generations of black families lost land they never meant to part with. Not because they wanted to sell, but because someone showed up pretending to lend a helping hand while quietly stealing everything they had. You know, it's the devil at the door treatment. Sweet talk you just enough to make you open the door, then rob you blind once they're inside. They thought they came in kindness, But every word, every handshake was a setup. And the tragedy is, most folks didn't realize that one small decision, that X on the signature line, had stripped generations of their family's future. I suspect they were thinking about food, of course, survival and family, not realizing that one small sale of that small share could cost them everything for generations to come. That's how they used heir property law. And let's not forget the role of the good old government, because they had their own brand of theft. They used eminent domain like a weapon, seizing black farmland under the excuse of public projects. Highways, railroads, parks, etc., you name it. They drew lines on a map, called it infrastructure progress, and took black farmland. The kicker is, most of those projects were never completed. But the land, of course, it was never returned. It became state's property. Families lost everything: homes, crops, legacies, all for plans that never left paper they were printed on. It was punishment, you see. Punishment for black people, former slaves, having the audacity to own something the white man couldn't control. The government played a role as well, directly. And when the smiles and signatures didn't do the job, the system itself took over. County assessors started playing the numbers game. They overvalued black-owned land, sometimes doubling what they claimed it was worth, then sent tax bills so high no small farmer could possibly pay. And when some payments were made, they were conveniently lost, and penalties stacked like pancakes until the land was declared delinquent and put up for auction. And guess who just happened to be waiting in the wings with cash in hand? The same local buyers, bankers, and sometimes even that same tax assessor who rigged the books in the first place. That's how tax law became another weapon used by white America. It looked official on paper, but it was theft in slow motion, legalized, sanitized, and backed by the government. And then came the Torrens Act, the so-called modern land system. It was supposed to protect ownership, keep track of deeds, but for black farmers, it did the exact opposite. You had to re-register your land under this new system, pay fees, and navigate a legal maze built for lawyers. Most black families didn't even know they had to go in and register. And when they didn't, their land could be claimed by someone else. A new certificate got printed, and just like that, generations of ownership were gone, wiped out with a stamp and a signature. The truth is, black folks were fresh out of bondage, barely 50 years free, trying to find their footing in a world they were never taught to navigate. Most couldn't read or write, and it wasn't by choice, it was by design. It was like throwing a Pop Warner Pee Wee football team made up of 5, 6, and 7-year-olds onto the field against the New England Patriots in their prime, with Tom Brady calling the plays. That's the kind of matchup we were given. No playbook, no coach, no equipment, just heart and determination. while the other side had centuries of experience, professional refs, the field, the rule book, all rigged in their favor. Just to put it into perspective for you guys, I have an uncle right now. He's about, I think he's 85, 86, something like that. 87 at the latest or at the oldest. And he still can't read or write properly. My family were sharecroppers from Arkansas. And my mom tells stories about how they weren't allowed to go to school until the cotton crops were harvested. The boys stayed out of school even longer than the girls. She said most boys only went to school for a few years because their help was needed on the farms to feed the family. Generation after generation. Think about that. That's just one generation behind me. So you guys can only imagine what the literacy rate looked like in the early 1900s. People were still trying to survive, still trying to feed their families, and the system made sure they stayed uneducated, uninformed, and easily exploited. And that's exactly what the white land buyers counted on. They knew the playing field wasn't level. They knew black folks didn't have access to lawyers or the education to understand complicated property law. So they descended on them like vultures surrounding a fresh corpse. You know, you guys, I have to tell you, when researching this topic, I kept having to stop and just sit with it. The more I read, the more it hit me. The sheer ugliness of it all. How people could do this and feel no shame. White America should be apologizing, trying to make it right, trying to heal what they've shattered. But instead, they double down on the same lies. It's not ignorance anymore as once believed. It's moral corruption. It's spiritual corruption. A sickness that's been passed down like an inheritance. And when you really think about it, it's so outrageous, it's almost unbelievable. How could a system be so intentionally manipulating, cold, and calculated to a people that never hurt anybody? How could generations of people come together to build a machine designed to rob others of everything they had? Land, dignity, hope, with the sole intention of keeping them on the bottom, underwater, gasping for air but never allowed to drown or rise. A system that feeds on struggle, just enough oppression to break your spirit, but not enough to make the powerful feel guilty. The amount of effort, the coordination it took to cheat, con, and manipulate an entire people out of their future. That's not just greed. That's something darker, sinister even. Black farmers are heroes in my eyes. They've endured more from this country and from the systems built to keep them down more than anyone should ever have to. Generation after generation, they faced theft, deception, and open hostility. Yet they never stopped working the land that was meant to help feed America. Generation after generation, they've been cheated, robbed, lied to, and legislated against, and somehow they're still here, still farming, still standing. What an inspiration. Thank you, Black farmers. Thank you for showing us what real grit looks like. So for those of you white commenters out there, the ones so quick to comment nonsense about how black people are the only ones who haven't progressed, I strongly suggest you shut up and learn something before you dare speak. Don't speak on what you know nothing about. Respect the black farmer. Respect the endurance. Respect the strength it takes to plant seeds in soil that's been soaked with betrayal, and still they manage to make it grow. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.
As a black farm operator, the one thing that I'm sick of hearing from white farmers is how you're struggling. Excuse me, my people not only struggle, the USDA objectively spent more money trying to keep black farmers out of farming than to actually help us. Meanwhile, white farmers were not only getting land, you're getting conservation payments. Do you even know what that is? The white farmers and their families for generations were given land, and they will be paid to not farm that land. Because it's for conservation, it's for environmentalism. The same white MAGA farmers who vote against climate change initiatives, who vote in favor of policies that harm the environment, are now the same crybaby bitches who are crying about them not getting conservation payments. Excuse me, you don't even believe in environmentalism, but you want payments for not farming your own land. You want payments for not working your land. You want payments for being lazy. You want payments for being white. That is the usual suspect, the usual problem in this country. The reason why we spend so much money on freaking farmers and subsidies is because of white farmers. Because black farmers don't even ask the freaking USDA for anything because we know better. You want to know why? For generations, the USDA has done nothing but help white farmers get them land, get them conservation payments, help them with animals, help them get freaking education, mechanize their freaking farm equipment. You do all that shit, and now you want to come to me saying, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I've been doing that, and that's why I'm not struggling like you are. That's why. You want to know why? Because when you give a man a freaking fish, he will eat for a day. But if you teach him how to fish, he will eat for a damn lifetime. And guess what the U.S. government has been doing with freaking white farmers? You've been giving out a whole lot of fish. You gave out the whole ocean's worth of damn fish. And now all of a sudden you can't do anything to function on your own. On your own. And the way that we know that you have focused so hard on getting subsidies from the U.S. government is that your crops reflect that. Your crops reflect that. Without your slaves, without your cheap labor from freaking Mexico and Honduras and Ecuador and Brazil, without your illegal immigrant slaves, your ass is falling. The reason why so many farm hands get paid so little is because it's been taken over by white farmers who were used to having slaves. So guess what? They don't want to pay top price to damn farm hands. So it's up to black farmers to actually pay people to actually farm the land, to actually be self-sufficient. Unlike the privileged, bullshit-ass, crybaby-ass white farmer. I've never got what the hell you've gotten. So stop crying.